You had one job, New Orleans. One job. And it wasn't beating up on the Eagles. It was beating up on those stinking Dallas Cowboys. And because of Dallas's shocking upset last night, the Eagles may have to run the table to win the NFC East. James Worthington is here. I am Adrian Fedke. What the fuck? Really?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I can't believe it. I really can't believe it. They were due to lose. I mean, you win 10 games in a row. That's really, really tough to do in the NFL. But after the beatdown they put on us, even though they were at home, I expect them to go into Dallas and at least, put up a freaking decent fight in the first half. They got pretty much owned. Like they couldn't do anything in the first half. Second half, they looked like they started moving the ball a little bit better, but they kind of shot themselves in the foot. Couple calls didn't go their way. It just sucks, man. The Dallas defense is legit. Those linebackers are crazy good.
Absolutely. And if you want to beat the Saints, you take away Alvin Kamara. And that's exactly what the Cowboys did. I mean, you talked about those athletic linebackers, Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch. They were flying all over the field. And what makes the Saints offense so demoralizing as a defense is you can have it covered. You can cover Michael Thomas. You can cover their tight end. You can cover Traquan Smith. But then a simple dump off to Alvin Kamara can go for like 20 yards because he'll make a defender miss. And it's just so demoralizing to a defense to think that you've played something well to cover receivers for 3, 4, 5 seconds, only to have Kamara just kill you for 15 yards on a dump off.
Yeah, it's almost like the scrambling quarterback effect. You can have everything covered, and then they run down the field for a first down, and that's just how athletic Alvin Kamara is once you get him out in space. I mean, yeah, they shut him down. Drew Brees didn't play his best game. I thought Sean Payton had a horrible game. They didn't look ready to play. And Dallas, man, they showed up to play. Their defense, like we just said, flying all over the field. DeMarcus Lawrence was everywhere. Byron Jones played good. I mean, they've got talent at all three levels. So as an Eagles fan, I mean, they're going to be definitely a headache for the years to come. It sucks.
Yeah, all three levels. You got that right. DeMarcus Lawrence, I mean, he backed up his words. He was the one that made the play on the goal line on Kamara, and then Byron Jones, you talked about it, basically took out Michael Thomas. There was not a lot of separation last night between those receivers and the Dallas cornerbacks, that's for sure.
Not at all. And yeah, Chidobe Awuzie, I think he's the other one, right? He's playing pretty good. So I mean, they've got young talent everywhere, and it's scary. And their offensive line, they played good. They fed Zeke. They played keep away from that offense, and that's like the formula, like you said before the show. That's the formula to beat the Saints. So it'll be interesting to see how they play going forward and see how other teams prepare for them.
Yeah. Hey, at least Dallas laid out the blueprint to beat the Saints. I mean, this is kind of like that point in the year where you look for some of these offenses that have been dominating the league all season long, like the Kansas Cities, like the Los Angeleses, like New Orleanses, and we saw a blueprint last night, maybe from the Cowboys. We'll see coming up if these other teams can be found out as well. But those are the things you look for at this point in the season.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, it's getting late in the year. It's almost in December. It's where the good teams really start showing themselves. I think, the Eagles last year, they had the injury to Wentz, and they made some adjustments offensively. They kept teams guessing a lot once they hit the playoffs, and we'll see what teams can do that. I think New Orleans will definitely make some adjustments. I mean, they got hit in the mouth, and I expect them to bounce back because I think they still are the best team in football, top to bottom. But we'll see, man. I mean, the playoffs should be pretty interesting.
Yeah. So here's why it was such a big blow for the Cowboys to win last night. If you look at the rest of their slate, even if they lose to the Eagles next week, at Indianapolis, okay, that's not going to be easy. That might actually be a loss. But then Tampa Bay and then the Giants to close the year, not exactly murderer's row, while the Eagles, they have to travel to Los Angeles to play the Rams. They got to play the Houston Texans at home. Got to play the Redskins twice and obviously have to go to Dallas. So it's easier for Dallas. They're in the driver's seat. We got to hope that we beat the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, we either got to beat the Rams or we got to beat the Texans and run the table and hope Dallas loses to Indy. I mean, I looked at it today. That is
pretty much what tiebreakers are because I don't even know what they are.
I was in the ESPN playoff machine today, and I think we would win on tiebreakers. I was messing around. I had to, man. After last night, I was like just frantically like going through scenarios and everything because I don't want to give up on the year yet, especially going to all these games in person.
Yeah, basically the hope right now is you hope that Dallas loses to Philly, they lose at Indy, And the Eagles, they only lose to the Rams and they win the rest of their games. That's what
I mean that's really the only way we can get in, unless like Dallas, blows it against New York in Week 17, which I don't see. Even though they are playing better, I no freaking way. If playoffs are on the line, they lose that game. And I hate to say it, man. I hate to say it, but Dak looked okay last night. He did have a couple throws, but he still sailed them.
I'm definitely Dak's biggest hater, so I'll give him credit for last night. He made like 3 or 4 big throws. I thought there was one down the left sideline that he made. Like I think it was it on the third down? I don't remember if it was, but one of the ones on Eli Apple.
Yeah.
And then there were 2 deep outs that I remember that where the ball placement was pretty good. He did miss Michael Gallup wide open. I mean, when the game came down to it, he made some mistakes. He had the fumble. So the people that were saying Dak was more clutch than Wentz about a week ago now feel kind of stupid, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the one he missed. I had a couple of people over watching it, and I go, "Nice throw, Dak. You're going back to normal." Everybody laughs. I mean, that run he had, I think it was on third down. He threw a couple tackles. Yeah. Those were arm tackles. They were tackling with their arms. He was running through arms. I mean, I don't give him much credit for that. He's a pretty big quarterback. I mean, if you're going to try and arm tackle him, you're not going to be successful. And it's something that was weird. We haven't seen a lot of that out of the Saints this year. That was very undisciplined football they played at times last night.
Yeah, I mean, as impressive as the Dallas win was, they still only scored 13 points. So
yeah,
the offense at the end of the day still not really getting it done, but that defense is
it's legit. Yeah, it's legit. I mean, as much as I was hoping it wasn't true last night in front of national TV. I mean, they really put on a show, and people know, they're legit. Defense travels in the playoffs. So, I mean, I hope we keep them out. I hope the Eagles are in there. But, if Dallas gets in and has a home game, they could win it. I mean, I can't really say anything else. I was impressed with the defense a lot. If it wasn't Dallas, I would almost say I enjoyed watching them play, but it was Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, well, Leighton, like my thing was like I hated seeing Leighton Vander Esch go there because
oh my God, me too.
Yeah, I think you remember. I was huge on him.
No, I remember you and a couple other people. I think who was it? Was it Skolsky that really liked him too?
Might have been him.
Yeah, and I liked him as well because he was big. He could move. I mean, and he went to was he BYU or I don't remember where he went.
Oregon, I think. Boise State. He played
Boise State. That's what it was. Yeah. And he played.
He played Oregon in a bowl game, and I remember like it was like the most impressive game I've ever seen from a linebacker. Just all over the field.
And a lot of times when you go to like a school like Boise State, really good football players get a little overlooked because they're in a smaller conference, and they come in the NFL. I mean, if you can ball, and he can definitely ball after what we saw last night. I mean, Jalen Smith doesn't even look like he had knee surgery.
Yeah. The thing that Leighton Vander Esch, I mean, his thing is like he doesn't really play with his hands in the run game, and I think that's actually what made him fall because he kind of like puts his shoulder into people, and but like when it comes to having to cover the flats or having to cover running backs, like he's so damn quick and fast, and the way he goes sideline to sideline, he's so instinctual. I mean, you could just tell that this kid was going to be a star, like you could just see it. And here he is, and he's in Dallas. So, yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, man. It sucks seeing that, and maybe we could have had him. I still like the Goddard pick, but God, I would have liked him to be in the Eagles green. Yeah. But it is what it is. Well, we gotta move on and make do with what we got.
Yep. All right. Well, now we can kind of move on to the game itself. We talked about the Cowboys. I guess we showed them some love. We showed the defense some love at least. So. I guess you could say that's eating crow for us eating crow. I don't know. But let's get into the game. So, Josh Adams' emergence, finally, last week. So, they have been only averaging, 21 points per game before last week it was. They were shut out that shutout continued in the first quarter, actually, last week. 9 of 11 quarters it is now. They've put up 30 points just once this year, but last week, for the first time, I'm actually encouraged about where the offense is going because of Josh Adams.
Yeah, I mean, we put up 22 points in the second half. We stuck to the run. The O-line looked kind of like reinvigorated. I think Jason Peters looked a lot better. Lane Johnson played a lot better. I mean, that's what they like to do. They like to run block. We've talked about this before. They aren't the best pass protecting unit in the league. So if you establish the run game and you get them going and get their mojo going, that's our formula for success. I went through and looked at the box scores this year, just in the ESPN app, and every game we've won, we've had like at least 25 carries for over 100 yards. So granted, we lost to Jai. We don't have Blunt. And Sproles hasn't been on the field, but Adams has showed that he can at least get like 15, maybe even 20 carries a game. You mix in Corey Clement in there, and if we get Sproles back, that's even a plus. I don't see why we can't keep running the ball. I mean, I think that is literally the only way that we have a shot to make the playoffs this year. I mean, the stats are out there with Carson, and if he throws certain many times a game, what our record is, and you can say what you want about that, but it really just boils down to sticking to the run game.
Yeah, it reminds me of the conversation I had about a month ago now on the Philly Influencer podcast, where I was like, the offensive line is good enough. It really doesn't matter who you have back there. And at first I was wrong because Wendell Smallwood, Corey Clement, they were just so bad. They couldn't find the holes. I mean, the holes have been there all year. And now, finally, they found the guy. It's Josh Adams. And, I mean, it's the forward lean, the way he finishes runs. It's his feet and vision. He can bounce to the outside. The pass catching needs some work. And there's some stuff that needs some work. But he fits what they like to do, and if they're going to keep that inside zone going, I'm blanking, this split zone. That's what they were using like all last week. They keep that going. They can keep running the football.
Yeah, I mean, he showed some really good agility and movements, being able to kind of just cut outside and bounce it outside real quick with that one cut. I mean, I was really impressed with him. Some of the videos I saw you tweeted out, they really put on his talent on display. I mean, he is limited. There's a reason he was undrafted. Yeah. And one of the things I heard, like Ray Didinger says, is he was too tall. Well, I don't care about his height. If the guy can run the ball, he can run the ball. I think he plays faster than he measured in the combine, which is another reason I think he fell. But I mean, hell, he looked good last week. Like you said, he has good vision. He hits the holes. That's all we need with this offensive line. And he runs hard, which is another big thing. And Philly likes that.
Yeah. Yeah, they had the stat. He was like running 20 miles an hour or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's for him at his size to get up to that speed. That's awesome.
He can.
Yeah, and hell, he's a local man. On top of everything, he wants to CB South. So man, I'm happy for him.
Yeah. So integrating Golden Tate into the offense has still been kind of a challenge. He's caught 11 passes for 97 yards and 20 targets in the 3 games that he's played in Philly since being acquired for that 3rd-round pick. So the things that I saw last week, I was going to do a film room this week with Brendan. Unfortunately, he has the flu, so we couldn't do it. But one of the things that we're going to talk about was some formational changes and then some things that we saw. So a lot more usage of the slot, stacks in the slot, bunches in the slot, whether that's Golden Tate and Nelson Aguilar together or whether that's Golden Tate and actually Alshon Jeffrey together in the slot. They're mixing a lot of different people in the slot and bunching them together. This is actually something that the Rams do a lot. The Rams like to bunch their guys in the slot or stack them in the slot. And they didn't even have outside receivers. So they were they were bunching everything together. And this was actually opening up the running game too, because they were taking that 8th guy out of the box. So this was some schematical changes that I saw. I mean, it still doesn't look great, but I guess at least they're trying some things.
Yeah, I mean, at least we're trying to make adjustments. Yeah, and we got a win last week in the second half. We got the ball moving. So, I mean, I would say keep doing a little bit of that, maybe try and get a little more innovative, see what they bring out this week. But, I mean, it looked at times last week like they were kind of just trying to force Tate the ball. Like, I don't know exactly what's going on. I kind of think the whole, like, him and Aguilar, like, not really being great outside receivers. Tate can play outside, but he is, I think, best utilized in the slot. And Aguilar, in my opinion, has the skill set to be an outside receiver, but he just can't do it. So I don't know what's going on there. I think that's a lot to do with it. But I think, we got him we have the 3rd-round pick, and we have 8 games out of him or something like that. We got to utilize it, man, because that's an expensive pick to give up. I know we have 2 seconds, and if he leaves, we get like a compensatory pick or something. But he's a talented guy. I mean, it just doesn't really add up to me. So we'll see what they do this week. I keep kind of saying that. Uh, so eventually, one of these weeks, my hope's going to run out. But I have him for us in a couple fantasy leagues. I'm thinking probably benching him. So this week will be the week he goes off.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, of course. Yeah, I've been surprised that he hasn't seen more time outside.
Yeah.
See him outside a little bit more, but
I mean, he can play outside. Like he can't. It's not like he can't play outside. So I don't know. It's kind of a head scratcher. But the whole year's been kind of a head scratcher.
yeah, you ain't kidding about that. So another thing I saw, obviously, one of the guys that's come back from the IR is Richard Rodgers, and something we saw in the second half, more 13 personnel looks, and this is actually when the Eagles started to run the ball right down the Giants' throat. So 13 personnel. They had Alshon Jeffrey out there as well whenever they threw the ball. So they were literally in 13 personnel this entire drive at one point in the third quarter where they kicked the field goal. But they ran the ball. And when they wanted to throw the ball, they just threw it to Jeffrey. And this worked out beautifully. I want to see more of this Sunday. Or
Yeah.
Monday
Monday night.
Monday night.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I think the more, like I said, we run the ball, it sets up things downfield. I think the more we get Alshon Jeffrey the ball, the better. And he's kind of gets going. He gets more aggressive at kind of high point in the ball, build him and Carson's confidence going in. I mean, it's all good stuff, and I want to see more of it. Washington's defense, I mean, they're solid, but I think that, we can have our way with them if we're able to just kind of play like we did last week in the second half. Just basically win at the line of scrimmage, establish the run game, and then let Carson play off that. I mean, he's still a young quarterback. People compare him to Big Ben. People forget Big Ben was very limited in the beginning of his career. Like, he was a winner. He was smart. He showed his talent, but they still had a great running game and a great defense to help him, win all those playoff games in his early stages of his career. So, Carson, I think, he mentally he's so advanced, but he's still only in his third year. I mean, he had a whole offseason of rehab too, which I think really hurt. I think he's fully recovered. I don't buy all that stuff that he's still limited out there, but it does take like mentally and just like a full calendar year to really kind of get back in the swing of things. Like, I remember when I played, we'd have our long off season, and I'd come back. I always started slow. It took me a while to kind of get back into the flow of things. So not having an off season, I think that really does impact, Carson more than people realize.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And going back to the Richard Rodgers thing, I wonder if this is going to lead to Dallas Goedert getting some more opportunities in the passing game, because they've been using him in line like all season long. Like, why he hasn't produced? That's why.
Because we can need him. Yeah, he's got to block because Ertz is very limited, and I mean, you'd be stupid to not utilize Ertz as a receiver. Look at the numbers he's putting up. Yeah, Goddard's he can block, but if Richard Rodgers comes in and then we can use him in that role, then I think we'll definitely see Goddard with an expanded role. I mean, the times that he's gotten targets, he's made the most out of them most recently. So he's got talent. The guy's a beast in the red zone too. So we'll see. Maybe he can kind of get some more opportunities as the season goes, especially if, I mean, I hate to say it, but if the Eagles do fall out of it, you might as well see what you got there.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
So the Redskins, one of the things they like to do, they like to get after the quarterback. They've got a really good front seven led by Ryan Kerrigan, Preston Smith. They like to collapse the pocket. And this has been an issue for the Eagles this year. So hopefully they're able to keep Wentz upright, because blitz pickup has been an issue for these running backs all year.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has. If we do get Sproles back, I mean, I don't know in what role he'll be back, but I try.
Right. So, like, you want to talk about a waste coming back.
Someone pranked me at work today, and they're like, yeah, Sproles pulled his hamstring again. I was like, what? But I mean, if we
believe it too.
I definitely believed it. I was like, oh my God, what is this guy's hamstring made of? Like, but I mean, if we get him back, I don't know how much he'll use him, but I trust him in pass pro. Corey Clement was decent last year. Honestly, don't know how good he's been this year, but I know that blitz pickup's been an issue. I mean, I've been so frustrated multiple times seeing guys just watch someone run right by them or pick the wrong guy. I mean, I've seen Jason Kelsey mess up. I've seen the guards mess up. I've seen the tackles get ragdolled. I've seen the running backs just look like they're lost. So it's been kind of a collective whole not a great year in pass protection, which is, again, why I think it's just so important to establish the run game, man. You can't let a team get a lead and let their defense kind of pin their ears back and just come for you. That's what the Saints kind of usually do when they get up on teams. They pin their ears back, they blitz, they got their pass rush real aggressive. But last night they didn't really do that because it was a close game. They didn't want to give up a big play and have momentum shift fully in Dallas's favor. So I think it really just comes down to just running the ball, getting that time of possession, and just establishing an offensive rhythm. The defense should follow with a limited Colt McCoy running that offense. So, and Adrian Peterson's like your tweet today. He's running down. They have injuries on the O line. So,
yeah, I mean, I guess we can go into that right now. Can the 33-year-old Adrian Peterson hold up this late in the season? Because in November he has not. Season-ending injuries to guards Brandon Sheriff, Sean Lavelle have not helped, obviously, but he's averaging just 3.05 yards per carry this month. 35 yards on 12 carries last Thursday against Dallas on Thanksgiving. So is he slowing down, or is it the injuries to the line? What do you think?
I mean, I think it's a little of both. Definitely when you lose solid offensive linemen like that, it's going to impact your offense completely, especially of running back like AP, who's 33. I know in the beginning of the season, like his yards after contact they were really high, and he looked absolutely great because he had fresh legs. And each of the past like 6 weeks, it's dropped off and dropped off and dropped off, and now it's not good. So it's definitely a little of both. The wear and tear of the year, wears on him, but not having those offensive linemen up there adds to him, and the more hits he takes, like the more his body's going to break down. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's like a combination of the both. I'm definitely in agreement with that. So the Redskins, when they were successful with Alex Smith, they were a smart, methodical offense. They basically didn't take any risks, but they didn't make mistakes. They averaged just like 20 points per game. That's what it was with Smith at the controls. But they were winning games because of field position and just not turning the ball over. While Colt McCoy last week threw 3 interceptions, and Alex Smith had only 5 all year. So if you can get the pressure on Colt McCoy, force him to make some mistakes, you should win this game pretty handily.
Well, yeah, and I think that they're exactly why they're going to try and establish the run game immediately is because they don't trust Colt McCoy, and he is more turnover prone than Alex Smith. I mean, Alex Smith is one of the he doesn't really turn the ball over at all. He's super just like shut down. But I mean, they're going to try and establish the run, and I expect our defense to shut it down, and that's a good opportunity to score some points early. And if you get in that position, then you're going to have to force Colt McCoy to win. If they stack the box and force him to check out of runs early, force him to take the one-on-one matchups, even though our corners are limited, I'll still take us because the D-line's that good, and I just don't trust Colt McCoy. There's a reason he's not a starting quarterback in this league. So
maybe they can get back to stopping the run.
Yeah. I mean,
Christ.
That would be nice. Barkley had, 13 carries or 14 carries for over 100 yards?
Yeah. 4.9 yards per carry allowed this year. That's 27th in the league.
And it's crazy because, like, at times we've looked like a dominant run defense, but there's been other times where we've been carved up. So it's just the inconsistency across the board. I mean, we hope that last week can kind of carry us and bring us some momentum. Both teams, I said it last time, it's like, well, shit, Dallas won. The Eagles players just watched that and said, well, we're screwed. Well, I realized Washington probably thought the same thing. So, no team's out of it yet. We need them to be the veteran team that they are, and hopefully they woke up. But really, it's just going to come down to we'll see. I mean, when I was watching that game last week and saw how we came out in the first half, I was mad, man. I couldn't believe it, 19-3. And then they came out, they stuck to the run, and look what happened. So, I mean, I hope Doug doesn't try to reinvent the wheel here. Stick to the plan that was successful. Washington's a limited team right now without Alex Smith. So you don't turn the ball over and you play solid football, you should get out of there with a win.
Exactly. Absolutely. You just said it perfectly there. So in terms of injuries, because obviously the secondary is really depleted. So it sounds like Sidney Jones is close to returning, but Jalen Mills and Avonte Maddox are not. You still got this Jordan Hicks injury too. So this quartet last week of Rasul Douglas, Crevan LeBlanc, Devontae Bosby, and Shandon Sullivan, well, they helped the Eagles basically give up only 57 yards to the Giants last week in the second half. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it. Like, I don't really know what to say. I don't know how. They played solid. I mean, Jim Schwartz must have made some adjustments at halftime. I mean, I think that the D line basically they stepped up a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, you got to give them credit, man. These guys we kind of brought off the street and they woke up. They played really good. So, if we get Sidney Jones back, that's awesome. I mean, a whole nother conversation about him and his performance this year. I've been a little let down. I know he's been banged up. He hasn't looked amazing. I really wish Avonte Maddox could come back because I think we found a gem there. I love him, man. He can play. Jalen Mills, it would be good to get him back. Just we tore him a new one in the beginning of the year as a city, even though like we talked about earlier, not everything was necessarily his fault. Well, he kind of looks a lot better now after everything.
It's funny how that's playing out.
Yeah, right. But I mean, hell, man, Washington doesn't really scare me at receiver. So I don't see why we can't do it again. I mean, Jordan Reed's their biggest threat in the pass game.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like they don't have many pass catching options that I'm really scared of with even a depleted secondary. So where actually you have to worry is actually the tackling. It's the tackling that's been bad.
Yeah,
I'm talking about tackling on the running backs because these teams are just running off the edges. And they're just attacking the Eagles' cornerbacks, and they haven't been able to tackle. And this is leading to like 30, 40-yard gains.
And it's crazy because last year they tackled so well. And I remember leading up to last year, it was one of the biggest things is our DBs couldn't tackle. It was the most frustrating things. And I feel like for years we were saying that. Like since we lost Lito and Sheldon Brown, our corners were just shitty tacklers. Well, last year, they played great. They played disciplined. They played physical. And it's like this year they reverted back. So they got to make the tackle. You got to wrap up. That's basic football. I mean, even if you're a little corner and you're going against AP, hold on for dear life. Your guys will come there and they'll help you. I don't care if you look like, soft as hell as long as you make the tackle. Yeah. I mean, last year, remember the pick six in the playoffs where Ronald Darby just put himself in front of someone and got blown up, but that was enough to get in. So I don't care how you do it. Just hold on, man. And that's basic football, which is crazy because these guys get paid so much. And it's like the most basic things that they've been kind of shooting themselves in the foot with this year.
So one of the things that happened with the defense, we kind of heard that report about Malcolm Jenkins requesting to simplify the defense, which is kind of funny because a lot of us are actually complaining that the defense is too simple and he is not blitzing enough. So that, it's funny that they made that switch and it actually worked because all the fans, they want the opposite. They want Jim Schwartz bringing the heat. But here's Jim Schwartz from his press conference talking about Malcolm Jenkins and simplifying the defense. He goes, the biggest thing we were just having, we had so many new guys on the field and we were having some issues with communication and execution. We just simplified some things. They were trying to use not hurry up tempo like you would think, like no huddle, but they were trying to get out of the huddle and snap the ball quick and things like that. Like I said, we had some new guys and a lot of different layers to a lot of our calls, but we sort of eliminated those and it worked out pretty well for us. And then he goes on to say, basically attributing tackling as a big reason for the Eagles' second half and kind of what we were just alluding to and talking about. I think the change really started middle of the second quarter more than in the second half, just played more consistent. We tackled a little better. We tackled poorly early in that game. We had a lot of misassignments early on. Settled down in the second half, made a couple plays, put them in some third down and long situations, which are always good from a defensive point of view. I don't know if I've ever had a game like that. I think Stroh, who was I guess one of their public relations people, pointed out that was the most yards anybody has ever given up in the first half of a game. For me, that's the most yards I've ever given up in the first half of a game and probably the least yards I've ever given up in the second half of a game. So those are Jim Schwartz's quotes from his press conference on, I think it was Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, what I take away from that, maybe it's not as much with the blitzing, is more of like, in the secondary with all of the young guys and kind of guys who basically got off the streets, they're looking at things in place, how the teams come out in formations. And it's like, if they show this, then we're going to do this. If they show that, then we do that. I think they took away some of that stuff and just go out there and play. Yeah. And that's kind of what you have to do with guys where they're not really with you all in the off season, especially if they're not that, if they're limited talent wise. I mean, I respect it. It's kind of a ballsy move because you can get burnt in the NFL by simplifying things, but it worked, man. It worked. Just like on offense with Doug Peterson saying he listened to the O-line and he listened to them to say they wanted to keep running the ball. I think Jim Schwartz, he listened to Malcolm, he listened to a couple of the other leaders, and you got to listen to your players, man, because the players have the pulse of the team, I think, a little more than the coaches. Doug Peterson might be an exception because he's definitely shown over the years that he really does have the pulse of this team. But the players are in the locker room. They're talking to the guys. They're on the field. They're seeing what's happening. And if you're not going to listen to your leaders, there's really no reason to even have that type of relationship and have leaders. So I'm glad. That's something I've always, complimented the coaching staff about, is they've always done a good job listening to their
Yeah.
players.
Simplifying the coverages, that makes sense because when I was watching the tape, there was a play. There was actually a couple plays where Shannon Sullivan was just running around with his head cut off, like didn't know what he was doing. Like it was really bad. Yeah. I'll have to show you. Like it was bad.
Oh my God.
He was like so out of place on a play. He was just like running back and forth. Like
that's really bad. Was it as bad as what's his Corey Graham against Tennessee?
Actually, it might have been worse.
Oh my God!
But they didn't get hurt on it. So
yeah,
they lucked out on it.
Yeah. Hey, luck's got to even out eventually, right?
Yeah. Right. Jeez. Well, they didn't get the catch though from Nelson Aguilar, if you remember, on the tip ball.
Yeah, I remember that.
We talked about last year, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh well, last year everything went our way, man. It was like last week. Finally, a couple things went our way. We finally got a couple breaks.
Yeah.
Nice to see Jake Elliott win another one on a field goal. So.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz, Mr. Clutch.
Yeah.
That throw on fourth down was the easiest throw of his life, man.
I know. Hey, it's funny because like all the people are saying he's not clutch, and I'm still like on the fence. I'm still like in the middle of like him being clutch and not clutch. I still need more proof, but like all the people that were like nitpicking him and saying he's not clutch, that was also ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's I've already like talked about this before on the PI podcast, but what happened was we saw the stat that came out after the Carolina game, and now we're just nitpicking every single game-winning drive from Wentz, and it happened again on Sunday. Yeah, the fourth down was wide open, and he really didn't have to do much because the running game was on point. But if we're gonna chastise him for hitting somebody in the flat who was wide open, then we probably shouldn't chastise him either when he hits a wide open Nelson Aguilar for a first down. At least he saw him, right? I mean, that's an improvement from not seeing an open guy a couple weeks ago.
He did what he had to do to win the game, and he didn't check out of the runs when he could have, and he didn't. So, if the quarterback's going to take all the heat when they lose, they won the game, the quarterback gets some credit. That's the way it goes in the league. People are going to get on Wentz. There's Wentz haters. There's people that like Wentz too much and don't want to criticize him at all. And another point I want to bring up that I have heard nobody mention this. In Carson Wentz's rookie year, he led a game-tying drive against the Ravens, and we went for 2 because the game didn't matter. Nobody mentions that. Like,
I have definitely mentioned
like he was good on that drive. I remember watching that game. So, people can say the pressure wasn't on, but
I remember everything that like led up to that game because like his rookie season for like he just wasn't.
He had a couple drives where he didn't come through.
Couldn't come through, right? And then the Ravens game happened, and it actually happened. So this stuff also takes time, man. Like but it comes.
He's already had a lot of opportunities for such a young player too. So he's going to have plenty more as the years go. I mean, personally, I wish we'd blow everybody out, but that's not the way it's going to be. So I mean, it'll even out. He's a talented player. He's smart. He just needs to keep getting experience, man. That's why I know that this year, it doesn't look like we're going anywhere like too crazy far. But that's why I still want to get in the playoffs. I want him to get some playoff experience. Yeah. That's really important.
No, it is. No, that's why they need to make the playoffs so he can get the experience. I think that's like paramount at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know if they make the playoffs because Christ, but he could use it for sure.
Yeah, and if we don't make the playoffs, man, it's the Titans, it's Carolina. I mean, Tampa, they were hot then, but Carolina and Tennessee, we'd be sitting here at 7-4. So those are the two games. If we don't make the playoffs, is where you look back and say that's why. Not because the Saints lost last night. I mean, even the Dallas game, hate to say it, they were ahead the whole game. I mean, we shouldn't have lost, but we did. So it's the two games because if we didn't lose to Tennessee and Carolina, wild card would still be a potential.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
so.
you can't blame the Saints. This is you did it to yourself for not.
Yeah, the Saints aren't playing for us. Like,
yeah, you had to do it yourself. I mean, this is what happens when you start the year poor. You start having to rely on other teams to get back in the playoff race instead of doing what you should have done to start the year.
Yep. Yep. I don't know, man. I mean, Super Bowl hangover, I think, was real. I really hate that cliche, but when you think about it, I mean, all off season they're going around. They're not paying for a drink. They're not paying for a meal. They're hearing about it. Different mentality, man, and that stuff's real. It is. So, like we've been saying, I mean, we'll see how they come out Monday night. I hope they awoke from this kind of nap they've taken. We'll see. I mean, it's definitely not the same team.
Long extended nap.
It's
been a 12-week nap.
Yep.
Like literally 12 weeks they napped through the season. I've never seen anything like this.
After that Tennessee game, I'm like, all right, well, we're 2-2 or whatever we were. We got time to recover, but it's just been up and down. Like I said earlier, man, just big giant head scratcher.
Yeah. I will say though, going back to the Wentz thing, I'll have to do a study one of these times. Maybe I'll even do it this week. Like take a look at like some of the great quarterbacks, and I'm talking recently because like back then probably not a good study. But I want to look at like quarterbacks in their first 3 years. Even look at Tom Brady, and see how many game-winning drives that these guys actually had.
And see what like went into them. Like, was there a defensive turnover that put them in great field position type thing? Because I remember Brady early in his career, that was that defense, man. That defense was nasty. Yeah, he made plenty of plays. Like he was awesome, but that defense, man. Same for Pittsburgh. It was defense. A lot of these young quarterbacks, they have a good running game and good defense, and then as they get success, they have success in the league. They come into their own. There's a transitional period, and then they're the ones kind of driving it. Like you're kind of seeing in Seattle a little bit, like with Russell Wilson, how that offense transitioned.
Yeah, with Carson, we're seeing like an Andrew Luck thing where he's been pretty good right from the jump.
Yeah. No, Carson, his rookie year, like you could see it with your eyes, he was good, really good. I mean, and I remember talking to you. I was like, I think he's farther ahead than Big Ben was when he started out. So, and you see it, this year he hasn't played amazing, but he's played good. I mean, coming off an ACL, that's probably the most major injury he's had. So, I mean, he's only 25 years old, man. Like people forget, this is his third year in the league. So, I mean, you and me, we're huge Carson guys. I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to definitely bring us another trophy. So,
yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get on to predictions and we'll get out of here.
All right. Well, I mean, this one I've kind of been, tossing back and forth with the score. I do think the Eagles are going to win. Nothing about last night, nothing about last week made me change that. I thought as soon as I heard Alex Smith get hurt, they were going to win. I think they're going to run the ball. I think Carson's going to have a good game. Defense will do just enough. I got us 27-17. I think it might be a little closer than that. We might score at the end of the game, but I think we'll be in control.
Okay. Yeah, I got like something similar. I got 24-16. So, same type of deal. You got a 10-point win. I got an 8-point win. I got 24 points instead of 27 because that just seems like where they kind of hover this year, like around the 23, 24-point mark. So that's what I got. So there it is.
Well, hey, I don't care how we do it. If it's freaking 3-2, just get the win. That's all that matters. We need to get the win and move on and get to Dallas because I hope they don't have any right to do this, but I hope they're not looking ahead to that game because Colt McCoy's playing.
Woo! I'll tell you what, man. It's hard not to look ahead right now.
It is. It seems like it should be a win. I mean,
it's harder now because Dallas won last night.
That too, exactly. It is. If Dallas would have lost, we'd have been like, okay, like they are what they are. But the way they played last night, you're looking ahead. You're like, the Eagles got to go in there and play the best game they played all year. And if it doesn't matter because if they lose Monday night, they're done. If you lose Monday night to a backup quarterback in the link, the season's over. I have no faith. That's right.
It's definitely over after that.
We'll have a rendezvous. We'll have a rendezvous with the Walt Whitman after the game if that happens, man. Man, dude, people will be pissed. People after the Dallas game were screaming, man. Like they were not happy.
Yeah. If they lose, oh man.
Dude, Yeah. I'll be on here next week just looking at the camera and just not saying anything.
Just looking into it.
Yep.
I'll start doing solo previews.
But yeah, no, I mean they got to take care of business, man. They know they do. So we'll see how they come out. That's pretty much all we can say. I mean, it's really don't have anything to go. If we're going off this season, they're going to have a terrible first half, and then they'll see what they do in the second half. But I like to think that they're going to come out and actually have a strong start. So that's what I'm hoping for.
All right. Well, we'll see. You got any final thoughts? You got anything else?
Nah, man, just excited to be there Monday night, second to last home game of the year. Let's hope it's a win and go Birds.
All right. So there it is. That's James Worthington. I am Adrian Fetchu. Give us a thumbs up on the preview. I always forget to ask in the beginning, but it does give me a couple extra dollars, a couple extra cents for some beer money. So thanks a lot for that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. And comment. Let us know what your thoughts are. What's your prediction? Can the Eagles win the NFC East? Or are they screwed now because of Dallas? Fuck Dallas. Dallas sucks. Dallas sucks. Fuck them. All right. We're out of here. That's James. I'm Adrian. Fuck you, Dak.